For Isabel Wood, the climate is her passion. Scratch that. For Isabel Wood, activism and change are her passions. In and out of the classroom, Isabel spends her time educating others and fighting towards a climate-just future. She teaches a student-led class on how marginalized communities are most impacted by climate change. Here, Isabel is in her element, reading articles or even leading group discussions. She works to make every climate class as engaging as possible.
Just put together because the co-teachers saw that there was a gap at Duke. There's, like I said, a lot of environmental programs, a lot of environmental conservation education, but not a lot of discussion about environmental justice topics, especially when it comes to actually in classroom curriculum. We put together the house course because we really wanted to fill that gap in environmental justice discussions. And that's primarily what it means to me, is really educating Duke students about the fact that we can't talk about environmentalism without also talking about racial justice and other forms of justice. And that's, I hope, what students got out of the house course this semester.
Sometimes it's difficult to find Isabel. She might be hiding in the classroom, in the greenhouse, or even nestled in between leaves and branches. She regularly travels to the campus farm, where she performs volunteer service, caring for plants and crops that are later donated to families in need around the Durham community. To Isabel, her activism takes many shapes. Outside of her house course, Isabel performs on-the-field research to see how changing temperatures and climates affect certain species. She collects samples from the Duke greenhouse to meticulously study how they are affected in an increasingly warming world. Her fight against climate change requires some help. She introduces me to one of her colleagues and friends, New Bowie. As Isabel eats her vegan nuggets on her reusable tray, the two share jokes and their thoughts on the state of the climate. New Bowie is a self-proclaimed tree hugger. She's a sophomore at Duke studying environmental science with her own vision of climate activism. Like Izzy, your best bet on finding New is where she is happiest, in nature. New sees climate change as both a natural issue and a people problem. She's concerned about the effects it'll have on marginalized communities most. Likewise, Isabel sees climate change as the most pressing issue for our generation.
One of, if not the largest issue that humans are currently facing. And that's because climate change doesn't act in a bubble. It's not like the seas rise and that's all that happens. The seas rise and then the most marginalized, most at-risk communities are the ones who feel the brunt of that.
Humans are not alone in this threat. World researchers warn that 1 out of every 3 species around the globe could face extinction in the upcoming decades. Meanwhile, rising temperatures have caused ice caps to melt, rising sea levels around the globe. 2020 marked the highest sea levels on record, marking 9 inches higher than where it was almost a century ago. These heightened threats risk every aspect of how we live our life, from how we eat, to how we work, to where we live. Luckily, Isabel tells me there is a bright light at the end of the tunnel.
People often don't know where to start when it comes to fighting climate change. They often feel, helpless themselves. But educating yourself is always a good first start.
That activism can take many forms. It might mean studying climate research at university. Or it might mean attending conferences and lectures on how a changing climate requires us to act now. But Isabel tells me the bottom line is to listen. Listen to your peers, listen to the experts, or just get engaged any way you can. Because while climate change might be something that happens outside in nature, it's the connections and activism we take inside that will make a difference. Isabel reminds me that this fight, her activism, has its ups and its downs. But she makes sure to never stay defeated. You can always find her laughing alongside her colleagues as they take any steps towards progress. Isabel is a college junior just like any other. With her friends, she shares meals, laughs, and sometimes even a game of foosball. She isn't quite sure what her future will hold, what she wants to do. But she is sure that she wants to fight climate injustice any way she can. Because for her, climate activism is just part of being a typical college student.